Hey, welcome to the video that nobody's ever gonna watch. Real smart move making a full spoilers explainer video for a show that no one has ever seen or heard of. But I had to make this. It's too important for me to ignore. I have to tell you about Detentionaire. So for returning subscribers of mine who like my videos but who probably don't know what Detentionaire is, you know that I talk a lot about mystery box shows and how to pull off an extended complex mystery plotline. I'm always on the lookout for stories that do this well. And let me tell you, Detentionaire is one of the best I've ever seen. You have to watch it. Although, I'm about to spoil the entire show from start to finish, so, yeah. And for you Detentionaire superfans who stumbled across this video while trying to find any scrap of Detentionaire content you can, I'm going to answer every question you have about what happened in this show. So consider subscribing and sticking around, because I've got lots of other videos about similar shows that you might like. This show is an example of what's called a mystery box story. Definition on screen. And I've dedicated myself to explaining as many of them as possible. If you have unanswered questions about the convoluted lore of a story you've just finished, then I'm the person who can give you those answers. So let's bust out our computers, keys, and cryptic books, and explain Detentionaire. Detentionaire is an animated series that ran for 4 seasons between 2011 and 2015. If the art style looks vaguely familiar, that's because it was made by Teletoon, the Canadian studio behind shows like Clone High, 16, and Total Drama. Detentionaire isn't exactly their most popular show. While it was airing, it got pretty screwed over by the American networks airing it, and after it ended, it mostly fell into obscurity. But this show is way too good to keep going under the radar like this. More people need to watch it. It's free on YouTube if you want to watch it right now. And it's also on Amazon Prime and a few other free with ads streaming services. Go check it out. I toyed with the idea of making a non-spoiler why you should watch this show kind of video, but this video by James Enright pretty much covers everything I would have said. You should watch it if you want to hear more about the show. But in short, I have never seen a show that innately understands how to tell a serialized mystery story as well as this one. This story has mystery with a capital M front and center the entire time. It's built around a goofy high school comedy setting, sure, but the main focus is always on unraveling this massive conspiracy that fuels everything that happens in the plot. I mean, it takes place in a school called Enigma High.
I get it. Enigma, meaning a puzzle or riddle, an enigma.
It's brilliant. I've watched so many shows that fall flat on their faces trying to make their mysteries work, and Detentionaire makes it look easy. And it came up before Gravity Falls, which is the show that is so often cited as the first example of this in kids media. So let me take you through the entire plot of the show, talk about all those mysteries, explain any unanswered questions you might have, and explore why this mystery plot was so good. In the first episode, we meet our main character, Li Ping, and his best friends Cam and Holger. On the first day of school, Li goes to the bathroom during an assembly, while somebody plays a giant prank on everybody in the school. Li comes back to find that somebody planted a bunch of evidence in his backpack, and he gets sentenced to an entire year of detention. But who really pulled that prank? Li finds video footage of it and spots a hand going into his bag. Meanwhile, there are these weird guys in hazmat suits covering something up, taking orders from the new principal, Barrage. Across the first season, Li follows a series of clues to find out who set him up, someone who goes by the codename RadCircles. Every episode, he thinks he's found a new lead, but it always turns out to be related in a different way than he thought. Along the way, some more strange plot points pop up that become relevant later. There was a song playing during the prank that hypnotizes people. There's this symbol that shows up on all kinds of things. There's also this creature called the Tazzleworm that's apparently the school's mascot and that everyone treats as normal. In one episode, it leads Lee down into the sketchy lab under the school, where he sees his dad and finds a big file on him and his family. This lab is part of a series of underground tunnels that lead all over town. Lee finds his real backpack, which has a golden key thing that unlocks them. And speaking of his backpack, he steals the security footage for the store that sells backpacks just like his, and sees Cam buying one. But Cam isn't the one who framed him, he was hypnotized. Someone activated an old hypnotism put on him back during Lee's 10th birthday. The hypnotist who did this is named the Amazing Finnwich. That logo that's everywhere is for the company Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich. When Lee finds Finnwich, Finnwich keeps calling him Manifestum, and he knows Barrage somehow. Speaking of Barrage, the Hazmat guys are robots controlled by him. Lee follows them to find room 113B, the room where kids are taken to be brainwashed and hypnotized, and where this big machine can remotely mind control anyone in the school. The case starts to crack open when Lee finds RadCircles' phone and sees that they had meetings scheduled with missing faculty in room 113B. And the next teacher on the list is Vice Principal Victoria. Why are you... Okay then. It's been heavily hinted at that she knows more than she let on. Lee goes to her with what he knows, and she tells him about a secret project developing brainwashing technology that she worked on along with Barrage and the missing faculty before coming to the school. But, surprise surprise, she's evil. RadCircles is revealed to be Lynch, this weird nerdy kid who's actually a full adult man pretending to be a student. But VP Victoria is the real mastermind, telling him what to do. This all culminates in the Season 2 finale, where Victoria tests her brainwashing on the school dance by making people ask out the most unlikely partners. But Lee undoes it, and Victoria is taken away by her bosses, a bunch of shadowy figures. In Season 3, Lee digs into the shadowy council and the Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich company. The head of all this seems to be the mother of Kimmy, the most popular girl in school. During Season 2, we learn that Principal Barrage was working against them, and that they kidnapped him. He comes back with his memory wiped and runs the school as a puppet for the council. The council keeps enacting evil plans at the school, like building a fence and stealing the key thing that Lee has, all to do with this pyramid under the school. But there's dissent in the ranks. Lynch seems to have betrayed the council and is now working with Finnwich to get to the pyramid before they do. There's this old book with Lee's tattoo thing in it, and there was a moment where the pyramid glowed and the tattoo glowed, and then he could suddenly sword fight. The council uses the keys to unlock the pyramid, but it doesn't work. Anyone who tries gets put into a coma. It can only be opened at the moment of a solar eclipse, which comes at the Season 3 finale, where the fight between the council and Finnwich comes to a head. Finnwich opens the pyramid, and then blows it up. The main villain of Season 4 is a ninja guy working for the council called the Serpent. He steals a hair from Lee for what seems like cloning purposes. And by the way, all the teachers at the school are clones of famous historical figures, including Lee's mom. And the Serpent is allergic to fish, and so is Lee's dad. And come to think of it, the Serpent looks a lot like Lee. Are they actually brothers? Or clones? The former principal, Wurst, comes back to be a new villain. He explains the broad strokes of the bad guy's plan. Apparently, the pyramid contains the secrets to ruling the world, and they cloned history's greatest minds to help them figure out how to use it. As the show heads into the finale, we're introduced to his Eminence, this lizard guy and the mastermind behind all this. He explains how 4 students at the school, Mann, Wurst, Finnwich, and Ping, originally worked with AronGIsMe to free him from the pyramid, and he promised them all untold power in exchange for releasing the rest of his species. But the good guys stop him, and we get an approximate happily ever after. But the final shot of the show is a cliffhanger that shows a member of the council releasing the other lizard people. I'm not gonna lie, seeing how the final episode ended, it hurt. I couldn't believe how well crafted all the mystery stuff was. This show was everything I've always wanted, ever since I started making these videos. But then the last season felt so rushed. So much was breezed over, and it didn't feel like a complete ending. Unsurprisingly, this show was cancelled before the creators wanted it to end. They were able to cram enough stuff into the finale to make it feel like a roughly satisfying ending, but there were still so many answers we never really got.
Why does everything have to be so confusing?
That said, I'll break down everything we do know and compile all the answers to the most important mysteries. Let's start at the top. The whole plot revolves around his Eminence and the lizard people. What are they? They're lizard people who ruled the Earth before humans and who went into underground hibernation in this pyramid when the Ice Age hit. Their plan was to wait until the Earth warmed up again and then re-emerge to reclaim the planet. Many years passed, humans evolved, and eventually, AronGIsMe built a school over the pyramid. We don't get any specifics of why or how, but Nigma discovered the pyramid and recruited 4 of his students, Finnwich, Wurst, Elizabeth Mann, who's the grandmother of Cassandra, and Lee Ping's grandfather, Lo. To learn how to open the pyramid, you have to read the instructions to the lizard people's book, which explains that you need to turn the 2 keys at the exact moment of a solar eclipse, otherwise it puts you into a coma. We don't know what they expected to find when they opened the pyramid, but AronGIsMe quickly realized that opening it was a mistake, and he tried and failed to seal it up, only trapping himself. His Eminence offered to make the 4 students rich and powerful, as long as they promised to help free the rest of his people. He then branded them with a mark on their arms to bind them to him, which grants them some kind of vaguely defined power. Ping figured out pretty quickly that the lizard people were bad news, and disappeared. But the other 3 founded the company Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich, and with the help of his Eminence, they grew it into the most powerful corporation in the world. They developed super advanced technology like cybernetics, robotics, hypnotism, and cloning, all with the end goal of eventually reopening the pyramid. Okay, so there are a lot of different characters working for the bad guys within Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich, and a lot of them have their own separate agendas. Let's go over them all one by one. The leader of the company in the present day is Cassandra McAdams, maiden name Mann. We don't know what happened to her grandmother, Elizabeth Mann. She probably just got old and died, passing ownership onto Cassandra. She's following the orders of His Eminence to unlock the pyramid, but she doesn't know exactly why. She just has the vague understanding that something valuable is inside. This is true of everyone in the Parents' Council, by the way. When Cassandra finds out what His Eminence is really planning, to take over the planet, she betrays him to try and take the lizard people's technology from the pyramid without actually releasing them. The human characters who seem to know the most out of everyone are Wurst and Finnwich. They were part of the original group after all. Wurst seems to have fully bought into the lizard people's plans and is totally loyal to them. The original Wurst got sick and died a long time ago, but thanks to His Eminence, he's achieved a form of immortality by cloning himself over and over. Finnwich, on the other hand, eventually realized that His Eminence was evil, like Ping did, and dedicated himself to preventing the pyramid from ever being opened again. Finnwich is also responsible for the majority of technological innovations that the company made. Next, Lynch. He's the CEO of Green Apple Splat, a subdivision of Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich. His dad Leopold founded the company. He got plastic surgery with Finnwich's help to look like a teenager so he can infiltrate the school. His motivations are a bit of a mystery. He betrays everyone all the time, but he never really states what his end goal is. The simplest answer is that he just wants the power of the pyramid for himself like everybody else, but that's just a guess. More than unlocking the pyramid though, he mostly just wants to play mind games with Lee. And a lot of what he does is just for the purpose of messing with Lee because he enjoys it. Vice Principal Victoria is a relatively low-level employee of Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich. She, Barrage, Coach Pummel, and Mrs. Lobb were all part of a research team developing hypnotism technology, which was apparently a failure. Later, Wurst, as principal of the school, hired Victoria, Pummel, and Lobb to help run things. Most of the teachers were clones of famous people who were unaware of everything that's been happening, but Wurst needed employees who were in the know to keep students out of the way while he worked on the pyramid. Victoria didn't really care about any of the pyramid stuff, but she wanted another shot at proving that the hypnotism tech could work. She and Lynch kidnapped Wurst, Pummel, and Lobb and sent them to Coral Grove to get them out of the way, in hopes that she would get promoted to principal. But instead, the school hired Barrage. So Victoria and Lynch planned the prank to get him fired, which also didn't work. Ultimately, the council wasn't impressed by the hypnotism song because it still couldn't make people do anything they truly didn't want to do, and they got rid of her for doing all this behind their backs. Shut up. Principal Barrage worked for Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich at some point, but he wasn't involved with any of the pyramid conspiracy stuff or Victoria's plans, outside of the original hypnotism experiment. The council installed him as principal at the beginning of the year, presumably because he was good at keeping students in line and out of the way. Once Barrage figured out what was really going on under the school, he fought back, but the council captured him and put a chip in his cyborg brain to control him. The Serpent is Lee's older brother, and he was kidnapped as a baby and raised by Cassandra and His Eminence to be an assassin. But by the time we meet him, he was tired of being their servant and became more concerned with finding out who his real family is. More on him later though. Those are all the antagonists. Between everything we know about them all, we can form a roughly complete picture of all their plans and everything they were trying to do. But the biggest missing piece of the whole puzzle is how the Ping family fits in. Why are they so important? Here's everything we do know. His Eminence says that one of the 4 original students would have the power to reopen the pyramid, and that he eventually figured out that it was Ping. How did he figure that out? No clue. He uses super vague language when he talks about it.
And it was learned that it was his bloodline that would one day be essential to a successful opening.
But Lo Ping figured out what His Eminence was planning and went into hiding so he couldn't be used to open anything. Most likely, he escaped to China, where he had Lee's father. Lee's parents met in China and had a son. Not Lee. That's the Serpent in that photo. But at some point, Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich captured the baby and raised him to be an assassin. Afterwards, Lee's parents came to America and then had him. That's the best timeline I can come up with, but there's so much we don't know. What makes the Ping family specifically important? What's the purpose of the Serpent's stinky Tazzleworm amulet? Why did Mr. and Mrs. Ping go to America and enroll their son at Enigma, the place Lo Ping ran away from? How much did they know about any of this? Why is Mr. Ping working for Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich? Why did they clone Mrs. Ping? The show ends before it can tell us. Really, the fact that Lee's dad isn't in the finale at all is infuriating. There's so much about him specifically that's left on the table. And of course, why is Lee so special? Why is he Manifestum, as Finnwich always calls him? Based on everything we just went over, it has something to do with his bloodline's ability to awaken the lizard people. His birthmark was passed down from his grandfather, which gives him connection to the lizard people's power. But why does he matter more than anyone else in his family? Or the other families? Unknown. The last episode just kind of says that he and his bloodline are more special than the other three, without saying why.
For every question you have, I have 10 more.
By the way, the reason he was singled out by Victoria and Lynch and framed for the prank has mostly nothing to do with any of this. Victoria just noticed that Lee couldn't be hypnotized, and it would make her experiments go more smoothly if he was out of the way in detention, which backfired. And Lynch agreed because he thought Lee was interesting and cool, not being part of a specific clique, and wanted to see how he would react.
But why me? Why drag me in?
You were unbrainwashable, and therefore not useful.
But I don't get it. So is Biffy.
But there's way more.
So spill it.
You weren't in a clique. Besides your two nobody friends, you were a loner. Who'd miss you if you were gone?
That's all the big stuff. Now for some cleanup. Little mysteries that pop up here and there. There's the subplot of Cam being blackmailed for turning in a paper he bought. Who did that and why? It was Grayson, the guy who sold him the paper. He wanted revenge for all the people who bullied him in his 3rd grade class. Even though Cam didn't really bully him, he was more of just a bystander. Did the Outcasts ever break their curse? So the Outcasts were early test subjects of Vice Principal Victoria, where she hypnotized them to do uncool things to see if she could. Which worked. Early in the show, Lee helps them get a Tazzleworm whisker, which can supposedly break any curse to cure them. But they eat it, so Lee helps them get a second one later. After this episode, Jenny becomes a major character, but the other two are never seen again. And over time, Jenny stops picking her nose for reasons that are never specified. Did the whisker cure them? Unclear. We never see them try to use it a second time. We never even see if the other two got cured at all. But for Jenny, my interpretation is that once Jenny got to be friends with Lee and Tina, she wanted them to like her. So she finally had a strong reason not to pick her nose. And since the hypnotizing can't make anyone do something that they truly don't want to do, this is what allowed her to break free. What was the deal with Niles Pegg, the detention teacher? The plotline with him kind of went nowhere, but presumably, he used to work for Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich, where he was in possession of the book, and he went into a coma when he tried to open the pyramid. That's why he never wakes up. The light from the eclipse seemed to wake him up finally, but we never see him again after the scene. Speaking of, Holger thinks he got superpowers after touching that light, causing various hijinks. He did really get a power, the ability to sense when two people are in love. And finally, how does the Tazzleworm fit into all this? This is another thing that the show didn't really have time to get into. But judging by how much Tazzleworm imagery surrounds the pyramid, it's safe to conclude that they were connected to the lizard people somehow. My guess is that they lived in harmony with the lizard people back before humans, and the blue ones were loyal to them, while the red one is against them for some reason. This is another thing that I'm sure would have been explored in future seasons. Oh, and the red Tazzleworm can't sing or dance. That was just Lee's fever dream. And there you have it. Every mystery explained that the show gave an explanation for. Words can't describe how badly I wish there was more of this show, that I actually got the room to finish what it had planned. But this is what we have. Okay, now that we've gone through everything that happened in the show, let's talk about what makes this such a great mystery story. If this is your first video of mine, I've isolated 10 criteria that I think any story with a serialized mystery plot should follow. Here's how Detentionaire builds intrigue and keeps the audience hooked. Any good mystery box story should open with some big question that kicks off the plot, and Detentionaire has the prank. Who framed Lee and why? That one mystery paves the way for tons of other mysterious details to enter the story, like secret passageways, hypnotism, room 113B, and the many adults with secret motivations. By the end though, all of it comes together when we see that Mann, Wurst, and Finnwich was pulling all the strings behind the scenes. The story is great at inviting the audience to theorize, explicitly drawing attention to mysterious things that we should be wondering about. The beginning of each episode even has an in-character recap going over what we know so far, which goes a long way to making us feel like detectives helping Lee solve it all. The show isn't perfect at this though. There are a few details that the story brushes past and doesn't make clear are meant to be mysteries. The first season introduces a few out-there concepts that the characters in the show treat as no big deal, like the Tazzleworm, Barrage being a cyborg, and especially the Hazmats. If I could make one change to the show, other than renewing it for a season 5, it would be having the Hazmats operate in the shadows and have Lee and his friends be the only ones who ever see them. It was such a weird choice to have them just out in the open, acting weird and blatantly covering up obvious suspicious things, and everyone treats that as totally normal. Other than those few hiccups though, the show makes it very clear that this is a mystery and that you're meant to try and solve it. Even though it was cut short, and it isn't as long as some other shows, it's still long enough to build a slow intrigue and add mysterious elements over time. And the story never runs out of mysteries. In fact, it's packed wall to wall with them. One of the most impressive things about the mystery of the show is that every single episode has something in it to build towards solving the overall mystery. Usually Lee spends an episode chasing down a lead, thinking it's one thing, only to find out that it wasn't what he thought, leading him to chase down something else in the next episode. There's a constant stream of new information Lee discovers, punctuated by big, satisfying reveals at the season finales. The mysteries of the stories are fully diegetic, with everything we see having a tangible impact on the characters in this world. There are those non-diegetic recaps at the beginning of each episode, but it's made clear that these aren't really happening and are just for the audience's benefit. And then, the ending. Does the ending give us enough answers to feel satisfied? It breaks my heart to say this, but no, it doesn't. As much as the season 4 finale gives a lot of answers, there are still a lot of dangling plot threads that weren't resolved. Watching the last episode, I got the feeling that the writers knew that the show was probably getting cancelled, so they stuffed as much explanation as they could into the finale, while still leaving enough room for a season 5 just in case. This is ultimately not the complete story that I desperately want it to be. It's frustrating, but to focus back on the positives, one of the most amazing things this show does is set up every big reveal well ahead of time. The foreshadowing in this show is on another level. I mean, Room 113B? It's explained in the season 2 finale, but before that, it's mentioned in the background of every single episode prior.
Would the following students report to room 113B? Would the following students report to room 113B? Grocer.
Okay, wait, first you think the song, like, hypnotizes people, and now you think it makes you sick?
That is dedication. The people who wrote this show put in the work and planned everything out. And Lee Ping is by far the best mystery box protagonist I've ever seen. He is 100% dedicated to uncovering all the same secrets as we are. Every episode has him locked in on finding the next clue to cracking this conspiracy open, to the point where it negatively impacts his relationships with friends and family. Beyond our own curiosity, we care about solving it because he cares.
Oh, why am I so obsessed with this conspiracy stuff?
So, that's Detentionaire. If it hadn't been cancelled, I have full confidence that it would have been a perfect mystery box story. But the shortened ending doesn't totally ruin the experience of watching the show. There's nothing else like this out there that gives you such a perfect experience of decoding the plot like a puzzle. And it did all this in 2011. All this time I've been saying how this mode of storytelling is still coming into its own, and it's only recently that writers have understood how to do it right. And this show had it all figured out way back then. If you're a mystery box fan, you need to watch this show. Plain and simple. Detentionaire gets a final mystery box rating of 9 out of 10.
But the truth! I must know all the answers! That's all!